And it was done, when he had entered into the house of the prince of Pharisees in the Sabbath to eat bread, they espied him. And lo, a man sick in the dropsy was before him. And Jesus answering spake to the wise men of law and to the Pharisees, and said, Whether it is leaveful to heal in the Sabbath? And they held peace. And Jesus took and healed him, and let him go. And he answered to them and said, Whose ass or ox of you shall fall into a pit, and he shall not anon draw him out in the day of Sabbath? And they might not answer to him these things. He said also a parable of men bidden to a feast. And he beheld how they chose the first sitting places, and said to them, When thou art bidden to bridals, sit not at the meat in the first place, lest peradventure a worthier than thou be bidden of him, and lest he come that called thee and him to say to thee, Give place to this, and then thou shalt begin with shame to hold the lowest place. But when thou art bidden to a feast, go, sit down in the last place, that when he cometh that bade thee to the feast, he shall say to thee, Friend, come higher. Then worship shall be to thee before men that sit at the meat. For each that enhanceth himself shall be lowed, and he that maketh himself shall be high. And he said to him that had bidden him to the feast, When thou makest a meat or a supper, do not thou call thy friends, nor thy brethren, neither thy cousins, neither neighbors, nor rich men, lest peradventure they bid thee again to the feast, and it be yielded again to thee. But when thou makest a feast, call poor men, feeble, crooked, and blind, and thou shalt be blessed, for they have not whereof to yield to thee. For it shall be yielded to thee at the rising again of just men. And when one of them that sat together at the meat had heard these things, he said to him, Blessed is he that shall eat bread in the realm of God. And he said to him, A man made a great supper, and called many. And he sent his servant in the hour of supper, to say to the men that were bidden to the feast, that they should come, for now all things be ready. And all began together to excuse them. The first said, I have bought a town, and I have need to go out and see it. I pray thee, have me excused. And the t'other said, I have bought 5 yokes of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee, have me excused. And another said, I have wedded a wife, and therefore I may not come. And the servant turned again, and told these things to his lord. Then the husbandman was wroth, and said to his servant, Go out swiftly into the great streets and the small streets of the city, and bring in hither poor men and feeble, blind men and crooked. And the servant said, Lord, it is done as thou hast commanded, and yet there is a void place. And the Lord said to the servant, Go out into the ways and hedges, and constrain men to enter, that mine house be fulfilled. For I say to you, that none of those men that be called shall taste my supper. And much people went with him. And he turned and said to them, If any man cometh to me, and hateth not his father, and mother, and wife, and sons, and brethren, and sisters, and yet his own life, he may not be my disciple. And he that beareth not his cross, and cometh after me, may not be my disciple. For who of you willing to build a tower, whether he sit not first, or he first sitteth not, and counteth the expenses that be needful, if he have to perform? Lest after that he hath set the fundament, and may not perform, all that see begin to scorn him, and say, For this man began to build, and might not make an end. Or what king that will go to do a battle against another king, whether he sitteth not first and bethinketh, if he may with 10,000 go to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000? Else yet while he is afar, he sendeth a messenger, and prayeth those things that be of peace. So therefore each of you that forsaketh not all things that he hath may not be my disciple. Salt is good, but if salt vanish, in what things shall it be savored? Neither in earth, nor in dunghill, it is profitable, but it shall be cast out. He that hath ears of hearing, hear he.